What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Two Knicks Chicks. I'm your girl, Lady, and the chef, joined by my co-host this evening.
D Blocks 21, what's up?
It's what's today? Tuesday. Our early start to our weekly show. So again, thank you for everybody for joining us. For those of you who are new here, we come on every Tuesday evenings at 6:30, 7 p.m. We come on also on Thursday evenings, 6:30, 7 p.m. And then you can also catch us on Saturday mornings at 10:30, the latest 11 a.m. We're still working out the logistics, but for the most part, those are our times. But as always, if you are not sure or you missed the thumbnail for which we tend to upload the day before, I advise you to turn on your notification button. And then also, while you're there, you can hit the subscribe button and subscribe to our channel so you can catch us doing all pregame and postgame review, especially with the playoffs coming up. Um, and then hit the like button while you're at it. And don't be afraid to chat with us and leave us a comment. We like to talk all things basketball and New York Knicks. And as this playoff season is coming by, it's going to start getting very spicy. And then we'll ease into, which we also cover, the WNBA with the New York Liberty. So lots to talk about there as well. But for right now, we're getting into Knicks talk. So I definitely do want to go over the last game. The Knicks played the Milwaukee Bucks away in Milwaukee. The Knicks were able to pull off a win, considering they had a slow start to start off that game. The Knicks won 122 to 109, and they actually handed Milwaukee their fourth loss. Milwaukee's been struggling to pull off wins, but nonetheless, the Knicks got the job done and were able to come back in that game. For you watching that game, what were some things that stood out for you that you liked, didn't like?
Um, there was a lot of things I liked. Mainly, of course, we know Brunson, you know, he's the goat of the Knicks. He's carried the team thus far, and like they're saying, Jalen we trust. But you know, I, Jalen, his scoring, he continues to play well with the scoring and assists, getting the guys involved. You know, that's the general, the floor general. Um, Devo, he came, late. I just, wish he would have got, a better start, but nevertheless, he did, come alive and, he hit some, key buckets, when it was needed. At one point, it was like he couldn't miss, which is a bonus. Although OG didn't have the best scoring wise, just defensively, his presence, that was an impact. So sometimes, scoring is just, if it's not the end game, there's other things you could do, and that's what he did. He did have like 4 steals, and which that's helpful and it's impactful. His scoring and defense, his defensive effort that was huge for the Knicks. Um, just his passing, that's a plus for us. Um, Hart, Josh Hart, he had a semi, decent, quiet scoring game, but he did have the rebounds and the assists. He didn't get kicked out, which was bogus from that previous game, but he was stayed in. Bogey, he did made a nice contribution off the bench. I wish, he could, definitely get some more minutes. Um, and what I'm seeing is I don't it like Chua. I don't know, he seems to be regressing. I don't know if it's just me. Um, he's I don't know if it's not that he's getting the minutes or, just coming off the bench and you don't know what's in a player's mindset, and how they react, how they respond and what they give, do they lay it all out, do they give it their all? But he seems to have been regressed these last few games. um but again, just the Knicks, just overall, long they to continue, play with that physicality, the Knicks gonna be right in it with any other team. So I like that. That's what they're given. just playing with that physicality. Um, they did get a slow start, but they was ultimately able to, pull out the win, and they put Milwaukee away. So it wasn't like it was a tight game. So just the ball movement. But it was a great game for me though. Now, you pounded to Milwaukee again. Which was and at their home. So it was a good game.
Yeah, I thought that was an impressive win by the Knicks,
Yeah.
considering that the Knicks have had a slow start. And I think the pattern that for me, what I've noticed with the Knicks the past few games is that the Knicks have been having slow starts.
Mm.
And those slow starts is hurting them because what's happening is once they get into the third quarter, now the Knicks are having to go through a dogfight to have to climb back into the games. And to me, they're making it harder for themselves by doing that because if they come out strong in the first quarter or somewhere in the first half, it can make the difference than having to try to come back in the third quarter. And now you're trying to fight your way through to pull off a win. Um, that, and then I'm also noticing the supporting cast Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, um, these guys, even McBride, they're not really coming alive until midway or late in the third quarter. And then all of a sudden they're starting to contribute towards the scoring. Even Bogdanovich. And I think some of it with Bogdanovich is the minutes distribution for him. I mentioned this yesterday on the Queen's Court. Shout out to Steph, Jeff, and Ajay. We were on last night, and I had mentioned this where I was listening to Tony Crow's episode he had with Sim the other day, and one of the things that Sim had mentioned was he wishes that Tibbs would play Bogdanovich in place of Randall's minutes. And I think I was talking to you about this on
Yeah.
the phone, and I think that he should do that because you know what Bogdanovich can give you points wise. And I just think that it sucks because Bogdanovich, I don't know. I think that sometimes I notice in the games that was somewhere in the third, fourth quarter, he's sitting down a little too long for what I would like to see. So it just kind of sucks that he's not in the game as much. But it's the slow starts, the lack of Knicks hitting the free throws. The Knicks haven't been able to knock down consistent free throws, or we're making one, missing one. It's another thing that's been hurting us in turn. I do like what I saw from Isaiah Hartenstein these past few games. I think his energy is back. What we saw when the Knicks was on that hot streak back in January, February. Um, Mitch seems to be getting his footing and getting, his strength back as far as his stamina and getting back into the rhythm of where he was at the start of the season. He had two nice, huge blocks on Giannis that were like really good. Um, and Achua, excuse me, OG Ananobi, although he didn't have a high scoring game, like you said, he did make contributions in other areas that I think were definitely needed. And I think with him is his impact when he's on the floor that makes the difference when the Knicks are playing, right? But I think, when it comes down to like Deuce McBride, Deuce and you and I spoke about this. If he doesn't have a good game, he makes up for it the next game and he'll give you what he lacked in that previous game. So maybe tonight Deuce will come out and be really loose and he'll come out and have a lot of points, right? Which the Knicks are going to need moving forward with these next few games. But overall, and then Josh Hart, he was very close from a triple double. He finished with 9 points, 7 points, 9 assists, 9 rebounds. Isaiah Hartenstein finished with a double double with 18 points, 10 rebounds. Jalen Brunson had a nice game as usual, had 43 points, 8 assists, 6 rebounds. And Dante DiVincenzo finally stepped up in that game and scored 26 points. And then you had Bojan, who had 15 points. And I think as far as Precious, I think part of the reason why, because he seems to have disappeared, is because now Mitch is back in. Even though I don't think that that should be affecting him because Mitch plays the five. And Precious really is not a five position. He should be playing that 3-4 position when he's in the game. But it seems like Tibbs has been having him on a bench more than having him out there. And if you notice, Alex Burks has straight to the end of the bench. Tibbs is not even putting him in the game. I mean, rightfully so. He's just off. He's not doing anything for us. And quite frankly, it doesn't even seem like he wants to be here playing on the Knicks anyway. But I thought it was a good comeback win for the Knicks. I just don't think that this is going to be sustainable moving forward. As resilient as this team is, I don't think it's a good go. This is not sustainable going into the postseason where the Knicks are down by 20 and you're trying to fight and claw your way back. You can't do that in the postseason. That's not going to work. Trying to come back after being down by 20 points. It's just not. You know what I mean? Like, that's not sustainable playing that way. And then you have to rely on Bogdanovich. You got to rely on DiVincenzo and Hart to try to give you something at some point in a third and continue that in the fourth. It's just not going to work with the Knicks team the way that they're playing like that. I think the biggest thing that I think we need to discuss tonight is the Knicks and where do they go or how should they move with the next 4 games remaining. With tonight's game against Chicago, the Knicks lost against them against Chicago the last meeting, which was just last week. Can't understand how the Knicks lost to Chicago when Chicago can't even buy a win. And they're vying to try to get a spot into the play-in. Um, but with the way the seating is with the standings right now, with the East Coast, everyone's on top of each other minus the Celtics who have broke away because they have that number 1 seed and they already clinched in the playoff spot. But when you go 2 through 8, it's close. So Milwaukee, the Knicks are only a game behind Milwaukee. Milwaukee's at 47 and 31. Orlando and the Knicks are tied at 46 and 32. Orlando is at third. The Knicks are at fourth. Cleveland dropped down to fifth at 46 and 33. Indiana's in sixth at 45 and 34. Philly's in seventh at 44 and 35. And then Miami's in eighth at 43 and 35. The thing is that depending on where the Knicks land, the Knicks could be facing either the seventh or eighth seed and either would have to play Philly or play Miami. To me, I don't think in the first round the Knicks should go against Philly or Miami. While yes, the Knicks have beat the Sixers, even with one of the games with Embiid being in, and somehow Miami just knows how to play this game very well when it comes to the postseason, and they know how to get past rounds. At the same time, with them being very physical and unfortunately injuring guys, mainly Bam Adebayo, I don't think that the Knicks would want to face Philly in seventh or Miami in eighth, just in my opinion. I think while the Knicks should avoid Boston as much as possible, I don't know if it's seeding wise, if it's important for the Knicks to finish and try to grab that second or third seed, or if the Knicks should stay more in that fourth or fifth moving forward. Where do you think is it more important for the Knicks where they finish seeding wise? Because at this point, if the Knicks win and get 50 wins, this will be the first time in 11 years the Knicks will have 50 wins. I don't know why it took 11 years to get another 50 wins. Crazy. But the first time in 11 years the Knicks will have 50 wins. I don't really think it's important about the number of regular season wins. It would be great if they do it great. I think between now and the end of this week, there's still going to be a lot of changes between who wins what game on the East. So they still is going to be daily changes. But where do you think the Knicks are better off landing? This way it dictates where we land for the first round and set them up. Or are you saying, do you think, or rather feel like it really doesn't matter who we face off at because the Knicks, you feel confident that they can beat anyone, which I know you always say that, but I think at least to make that first round a little easier for them. And every team is going to be a challenge no matter what. And especially because the Knicks don't have Randall, it's going to be challenging. But do you think the Knicks should try to finish between that second, third, or should they stay within that fourth and fifth? This way they can potentially play maybe Orlando, Cleveland, or Indiana.
Well, for me, I mean, being at Orlando, if they do land them, they have the tiebreaker against them. Orlando has given the Knicks fits for whatever reason. Um, but ideally, with me, I'm just confident because the Knicks they have that chemistry. They know their identity. As long as they play to their strengths. I'm not, to me, they can face, any go up against anybody. They continue to play with that physicality, and ideally, me personally, I would Philly, but again, I the Knicks they're capable of going in on that court that hardwood and playing against anybody even and tomorrow Thursday is definitely going to be a telling game for them because it's Boston.
Hmm.
So that's why I don't want so quick to answer. I don't know. I just kind of leery just saying who.
But
Um,
is that a telling game whether Boston plays their key guys or they sit them? Or if they sit them, is it still a telling game?
Well, yeah, but I think if they sit them, I mean, I don't think that the Knicks, it's given the best, it's not the, you know, if they play their key guys, because they're starters for a reason. That's the case. The bench will be, they'll reverse the role. So I mean, if they play their key guys, it'll definitely say a lot more about them. Win, lose, or draw, and if they play, their bench. I think that's definitely not to the Knicks' advantage because you're playing bench guys versus, if they play their starters. So yeah, that'll definitely, it says a lot, about them, and definitely if they lose, like then I mean, but me personally, I would rather them go up against Philly, although the Magic they're young, but they ran into some hiccups. Yeah, they lost some. Same thing with Cleveland, but the playoffs, like you always say, it's a different animal, and guys come alive. Butler, he's known for playoff Butler. He shift gears and he goes into that playoff mode. I even read an article like how he was holding back and and to the playoffs come because some guys are just able to shift gears and they off and it's just no stopping them. But for me, I would feel better if it was a matchup against Philly, because of where we are and just the matchup in general. OG, he's definitely getting his stride up. Same thing with Mitch. He has a slow start, but he seems that he's still working off that rust, and getting back into that conditioning shape. So I feel that for me personally, I would rather see them with Philly. Um, and that's just my take.
But you're saying that because you don't feel as confident if the Knicks went against, hypothetically, Orlando. I'll even throw Milwaukee, even though we beat them twice, but Orlando, Indiana, Miami, or Milwaukee, you don't feel the Knicks have better odds against either of those teams and you feel more comfortable if they would have played Philly in the first round?
Yeah, but if they won't be facing Milwaukee, so I mean, they could jump up to the second seed because that second seed is up for grabs. So to be honest with you, because it's so tight, where the after the first, that second, third, and fourth is just really the second seed is just up for grabs. So I mean, we could get second and Miami or I still, I mean, I feel confident either way. To be, it doesn't matter, who they, play, out, if they get past that first round, um, because again, if they continue to play up to their strength, rebounding is key, So there's, and they've seemed to, hone that outside, that the game that they got pounded with the Bulls. on Friday. But overall, just Mitch is back. Isaiah, he's giving us a double double on most nights. Just rebounding is key. I Hart. Excuse Josh Hart. For a guard slash forward, he's rebounding his tail off. So at this point, it really don't matter who they face.
Yeah, technically second through seventh is up for grabs because everyone is within a game, maybe two behind each other, and the loss
Mhm.
column is roughly the same. My thing is with the Knicks, I'm not worried about them more so defensively, even though defense does help win games, and I'm a firm believer in that. My concern is you look at a player like Dante DiVincenzo, sometimes he's off from the three.
Mm.
And the problem with that is that he doesn't try something else. He still continues to shoot the threes instead of saying, well, let me get hot. He'll give you the fast break layup. The reverse he does nicely when someone catches it, throws the nice lob pass, cool. Or he gets to steal himself. He does a great job like OG Ananobi between seeing the ball, seeing his man, and he a lot of times will stick his hand out, steal the ball, run down the end of the court. Cool. Quick layup, dunk. But I find sometimes with Dante DiVincenzo, if he's off from the three, that concerns me a little bit going into the playoffs. I'm not saying to stop shooting. I think that you have to keep shooting. Coaches are going to tell shooters to keep shooting. But I don't think that if you brick and you on miss 10 and you still shooting them, you got to try to take one or two in from the 3 point line and try to hit a mid range jumper. So I get concerned with that. Josh Hart, I think he plays his role well. And Queen was like, she brought that up because she was like, I think the difference is with this Knicks squad, these players are role players, not playmakers. And that's the difference. And I think that's why you and I, and like most Knicks fans, we've been noticing how Brunson doesn't have any help because there's no playmakers on this team. He's really the only playmaker on this team. And even if other teams decide, well, we're going to let Brunson go off, now they could just guard everybody else because they're going to say, well, they're not going to really do much. And it's not to say that this team is not good. This next team can't create offensively and get points on the board. But I think that when you don't have players who can, and I'm not saying to the degree and the level or the fanciness of like Brunson with his footwork and the hezzies and the shoulders and the tough physical baskets shots that he's going after and making. But the Knicks don't really have other guys on this team who's going to do that because Bojan is a pull up. Maybe he'll give you a step back shot. Tough baskets, but that's his game. Josh Hart is more fast break. He goes in the lane. And sometimes I feel like he needs to shoot the ball more. He doesn't. OG's gonna he has to get the ball and then he'll do something with it. But I think also OG needs to be aggressive as well. I don't think he's being as aggressive offensively because of his shoulder, and he's still, I think in general, but I think he needs to be a little bit more aggressive offensively to help us put some points on the board when we get into the playoffs. And again, I'm not saying it's just because he only had 4 points the last game. I'm just saying in general, like I think offensively we're gonna need a little bit more from him. And the same thing with Deuce McBride. I don't think Deuce is gonna really be able to afford to go in a series of a first round. Okay, the first game he gives you 14, or he gives you 20, and then the next game you only get 3, maybe 5 points from him. I think if he can keep it around that 12 to 14 points, solid. You did your job. Because we know what you could do defensively, but offensively, I think that's where, we're gonna be needing the and I think that's the biggest thing for me. I'm not concerned with this Knicks team defensively. I'm concerned on the offensive end and that we don't fall into that trap last year in the second round where we couldn't knock down a shot. We were cold, and then there was really no one else who was able to play make and create their own and go to the basket. It was mainly just Brunson. So I wonder if when we get to the playoffs, if teams are gonna say, well, we could let Brunson do his thing. But that's where I think offensively, not even just scoring, I think what the Knicks are gonna have to capitalize on is getting other teams in foul trouble, get certain players racking up fouls. The Knicks don't do that very well. And it's like you got to play the game smart. Don't make it harder for yourselves. If you see, like tonight, get Drummond in foul trouble. Take it to
Yeah.
him. He,
Yep.
he killed you the last game. There was no
Yeah.
answer for him. And I think Mitch would be a better matchup against him. Hopefully, Tibbs runs that. If you have to do what you have to do, again, this is where the adjustments come in place. But I think the Knicks are going to have to learn to capitalize on not even just driving, but making it count when you drive. And I'm not even just talking about the basket, but try to draw the foul to get players on the opposing team in foul trouble. Get certain guys to the point where they're about to get, you know, fouled out because you guys are driving it the ball and taking it to them. And I think that's what's key, that the Knicks have to learn how to get other teams in foul trouble, and the Knicks don't capitalize on that. Whereas other teams, granted, the refs don't give us a lot of calls, including Jalen Brunson. I give the Knicks that. But I don't think I think other teams do a great job getting a lot of Knicks players in foul trouble or able to attract the foul. And the Knicks, I think, are going to need to be able to utilize that in the playoffs to be successful as part of their game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you said, the bench, like we're gonna definitely need some bench contribution. Like you said, Dude's gonna, have to, give us something. Bogey, yeah, I mean, I hope he, see more minutes. We're still waiting for Shake to just, touch the floor outside of 3 minutes or 35 seconds. Yeah, just because like you said, you can't, you got to be consistent. You can't give us 20 points one game, Deuce, and now you do a disappearing act. It collectively, it's gonna be a team effort for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Mhm.
the way the Eastern standings are set up, the Knicks have to be careful because Philly have won their last five. They're 44 and 35. They could climb up easily into third or fourth. Just
Yeah,
the same way we're saying the Knicks could end up in second, Philly could end up being in, fourth too. Hell, move up to fifth,
yeah,
and Cleveland have
yeah,
lost their last three. So
yeah. Like you said, like we said, that number two seed is up for grabs. It's for anybody. It's for the taking for the most part.
that really
It's
is
not even Milwaukee, they've fallen, as far as just their losses. Um, Two more loss, and they can drop down, and now that gives the opposing, whether it's the Knicks or Philly or hell Cleveland, somebody could just go in the last few games, the last three, and a hot streak, and they're up there, at second. So it's for
right.
anybody for the taking.
Chicago just lost their last game to Orlando, 98 to 113. That was on Sunday. Um, yeah, they're very much win one, lose one. That's their track record.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this is why I'm saying that the Knicks need to be able to capitalize and beat them. Um, to me, it's just a non-negotiable. The Knicks have to be able to beat Chicago. I don't care even if the Knicks was in seventh or eighth seed. Like, don't lose to Chicago. You know what I mean? Like, make the wins
Not
count and finish off the regular season strong. Do you think that Tibbs is going to limit anyone's minutes, Brunson, um, any other guys, or you think the Knicks right now can't really afford to do that unless we have a big enough lead in the fourth and then he could sit them down? But
well,
you think they're still going to have a lot of
if there's that big lead, I mean, I would hope that he would, sit him down just to not risk anybody getting injured. That's the end goals for him to, sit guys and you know, but with Tibbs, it's it's hard to tell.
right? Yeah, I don't think that Tibbs is going to necessarily rest guys. I think they're still will be playing at that full swing of minutes that they've been playing. Against Milwaukee, OG played 38 minutes, Josh Hart played 37, Isaiah Hartenstein 29, Brunson 39, Devo 37, Mitch had 19, and McBride had 18. Bojan had 17. I think Bojan's minutes should be up a little bit more. I think he should be
Yeah,
getting around 25 minutes.
for
And Precious
sure.
will only play 5 minutes. So, because if you're able to figure out, I mean, Isaiah Hartenstein minutes was up because at one point he was at like 20, 23. So now he's at 29.
Yeah, yeah, they kept increasing his minutes. Yeah.
Mhm. Honestly, I don't know. I feel like OG should maybe be at like 30, 35, not 38, just because he's just coming back from his elbow. He just tweaked it before. So, salute Eddie Kofi. He said we should be 55 wins by now. We lost some 8 games, which you should. I agree. We should
For
have won.
sure.
The Knicks should be at 55 to about. I could count at least 6, 7 games at least that the Knicks should have won. The Spurs
Yeah.
was one of them. Chicago was another one. There's a couple of like little chippers that, and again, some people in the chat last night on the Queen's Court was like, oh, these guys come on and play hard. They're not going to win every game. And I'm well aware that teams are not going to come out every night and win every game. I understand that. But I think one thing I think that this team has to do a better job at is I'm not expecting this team to win 9, 10, 11 games in a row and have those streaks throughout the year, right? But I don't think you could go win one, lose
Lose.
two or three,
Yeah.
win 2 or 3, maybe five, and then you lose your next four. It's the consistency for me that's lacking.
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
we're doing a better job with the consistency from players, but I don't know. I still think with this team, going back to what we were just talking about, like with the role players on this team, do you think that's enough? And we could keep who we have role player wise, the supporting cast, and keep them on for next season? Or do you feel like it ain't broke, so don't try to fix it?
Well, outside of Burks, which he said he's not gonna be with us next year anyway.
No,
So you
I'm a
see,
firm
he already signed, with he's with the other
believer.
management team.
Yeah, but
So he's gonna be a restricted free agent, which hey, it's by by us. So, but aside from Alex, Alec Burke, of course they got the other guys like Toppin and Jeffries. I'm happy, with them. Again, just with the injury bug, just hit the Knicks so hard this season. And it just forced those guys to just play a lot of minutes. And yeah, of course they're gonna play them, because that's what they have to do to get that win. But I think, and they were stretched thin, playing those, the absorbent amount of minutes. It can become tiring, and if they can next year come back healthy, and maintain, that health. Um, you know, I like the team where they're at, for the most part. But outside of, then again, let me, pull back on that. We do lack height. Um, that's my only, pet peeve with, with the Knicks, because,
we
they
be
were
looking
a
like
hustle.
Iowa out there.
We'll say that again.
We be looking like Iowa, the women's team out there.
Yeah,
Sometimes we keep short.
yeah, we the Knicks, they lack height. We they went against some giants, and and pound for pound, just height for height, they were, as much as they rebound. That's my only pet peeve with them. But otherwise, I like the team and where they're at, because they're a physical team. They out, they can out muscle guys, but it's just the height, factor. That's my only drawback with them.
But with the players that we're mentioning, and I'm not talking about Toppin and Jeffries. I can care less about those two guys. I'm talking more about Dante DiVincenzo, Precious Achua, Isaiah Hartenstein, Mitchell Robinson, um, and I'm not including Deuce because he's already signed, and I think Deuce is going to get better. I like him here on this team. But hypothetically, if you did have Randall here and you have Mitch, and they were a healthy team this year, I think we would have won and been at 55, yes. But I feel like there would have still been some games that, you know, how when we're watching a game together and we're like, what's going on? You know what I mean? Like, I think for me, what's missing is this team needing guys who can be able to score. Because even Isaiah Hartenstein, although he gives you the floater, a lot of times it's painful to watch where he will not turn towards the basket. It's very confusing why he does that. Like, he's so busy looking towards the perimeter line, looking to pass the ball, that I'm like, if you turn around a little bit more, you can possibly either, like, I wish he was able to shoot those corner by the free throw line shots, those mid-range jumpers. I'm not saying all the time, but just having that under your belt would be nice. And it's not me necessarily directing this towards him, but I'm just using him as an example. Um, and you know what? I kind of agree with you that I think we have to see how the Knicks play this playoff season, this postseason, and then we can better regroup and come back to this question and say, well, is this enough, or does the front office need to regroup and maybe make a few swaps, or does it need to be a major swap? Um, because I think a lot of people were looking forward to see how Randall was going to play this postseason too. And it sucks because this is a second year in a row now that we don't get to see what he can do. And I think even if we did have Randall and you have OG, you have Brunson, I think the Knicks still need someone else. I think they need like I'm not saying this because he was on the trade talk block, but like you need maybe like a player of a skill level like a DeJounte Murray, or what you call it from Brooklyn. You need someone who can score and help out and put points on the board. Someone who could get free from that defense, and whether they have man to man D on them or the team is playing the zone, somebody who can get you just clutch baskets. And again, that's why I'm really going to be watching, not even necessarily just the remainder of these games, especially tonight's game. I think the Knicks have to redeem themselves. But I think in the playoffs, that's something that I'm looking for is, can the guys on this roster that we have, Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, like can they score? We know how to score, but I'm saying when that defensive pressure's on you in the playoffs, can you be able to score and not we're just Brunson's having to carry the bulk of the load and there's not really any help there. So that's really what I'm looking for to see. Like, can the other supporting cast guys be able to step up? I don't think that the Knicks should make any drastic changes and get rid of a lot of guys. No. But I think that there's a question mark there for me for Precious Achua. I would love for him to stay, but there's a question mark. And not just because he's been quiet, but I don't know long term fitting wise. I know he wants to be here and play in New York, but there's a question mark there. I think the whole Hartenstein and Mitch question mark there as far as keeping them both there together.
What I mean, for us, we have two legitimate centers. So that's what I like about the Knicks. Those are two legitimate bona fide centers that can play off each other and complement each other. So I'm in that department, once Mitch, because he's still, ironing out the kinks in the rust. Once he gets his foot and his legs underneath him, dust all that off. I'm definitely, happy because they have two bona fide legitimate centers that are, that they play their role and they don't, go from the 4 to the 5. They are legitimate, bona fide centers. So with that, I'm happy. And like I said, the height, and outside, like you said, with DiVincenzo and Josh Hart, you're gonna need a playmaker. So
Hmm.
that's that's another issue, the height, and you're definitely gonna need because Brunson is playing a lot of minutes. So you and Deuce is he'll come along the more reps and the more playing time he gets. Um, but overall, like I said, I like the team and where they were going and where they are going and where they can go. As far as just next year when Randall comes back and things like that. So yeah, like I said, I like them as a whole. But with a few caveats again, height and we need
Hmm.
a playmaker. Um, yeah, and someone to back up Brunson, um but otherwise, yeah, I think that's something that they're gonna definitely look into next season because he's it's just so much for Brunson overall.
Yeah, I agree. I was gonna say that. I think for sure they have to get someone else who can comfortably handle the ball and bring the ball up.
Wow, look at Eddie
Comfortably,
Kaufman.
comfortably. I'm gonna get to his comment. Who can comfortably bring up the ball and manage bringing up that ball comfortably. I think they made a mistake bringing Burks. I understand it was the deal from Detroit, but I don't think from the rip, I don't think Burks was ever going to be a back. I don't even think that's the position he wants to play, at least not on the Knicks. You know what I mean? Like, I never feel, I'd rather see Deuce bringing up the ball before I see Burks bringing up the ball. But Eddie said, let's not count on Mitch. His overall, he is overall a liability. Some blocks here and there cannot make up for his offensive handicap. Then his stupid fouls and inability to make free throws. I agree with that, but Isaiah Hartenstein also struggles to make free throws. Actually, most of the Knicks struggle to make free throws. The last 10 games or so, the Knicks, I think Milwaukee, I think it was Dame made the amount of free throws he made was how more than what the Knicks even took. I know I'm screwing up the stat. I don't have it pulled up, but the Knicks, remember when we went to the game and they was playing Philly and the Knicks couldn't buy a free throw? And we were counting like that was I think you said that was 7 points right there that we could have had. And that goes back to the point that I was making with the Knicks not having a playmaker. Because that game specifically, no one was doing anything. When Brunson sat on the bench for a couple of minutes, it was just dry. The crowd was trying to get them in it. And it wasn't because the Knicks were missing shots. Yeah, they were, but like no one was taking the action steps to say, well, let me try to go to the bed. Let me try to shoot a shot. It was just pass, 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 pass. That's all that was happening, passing. So, and then when we went to the game when they played Utah, sure, the Knicks won. But remember, Brunson hit his head really hard on the ground. So he was on the bench for a little while. Pass, 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 pass. And we were like, what's going on here? No one was trying to go to the basket. And I think Brunson had came back in. Josh Hart got a little bit on fire. It just was looking a hot mess. No one ever they look clueless out there on the Knicks. So I just think that I don't know. I think that the Knicks are gonna have to definitely get another playmaker on the team. Salute Aj. The Knicks are definitely gonna have to get someone who can score I think they need two players. I think they need someone who could score, a playmaker, or maybe a playmaker who's a combo and can handle the ball. And then they need, to me, they need another backup. And I think that's where Precious Achua came in place, but he's not tall enough. Because if Mitch, who suffers from injuries, if he gets hurt next season, Isaiah Hartenstein's going to need a backup, someone who's tall. Because when before Mitch came back, that's exactly what you was alluding to. When Isaiah Hartenstein was on that bench getting a breather, the Knicks they can't grab a rebound. They struggle to get rebounds. It's Josh Hart who was grabbing the rebounds because he
Yeah,
has springs under his feet and he jumps so high. But and I appreciate him getting the rebounds, but I think we need somebody who's taller. When you have a player like Embiid or Jokic, those guys are solid. They're strong. Josh Hart, I'm not saying he's not strong, but he may be able to out rebound them by being quick off his feet, jumping off his feet quicker. But those guys are so tall. I just think they also need a body on them to kind of help box them out to make it tough for them to get the rebound or tip the ball out. And the Knicks struggled and looked mightily short when
hmm
Isaiah Hartenstein or Mitchell Robinson's not in the game. We look very guard heavy. And that's something else that to me, I think it's not getting out rebounded. The Knicks have to make free throws, keep the turnovers down, which they have done a better job at keeping the turnovers down. Get more points in the paint. I need Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart to not wait till the third quarter to try to get a boost of energy. And again, hit the free throws. This make one, miss both. It's not a good combination. It's not. And I think just seeing production from other guys on the supporting cast is going to be crucial. So if
yeah,
that supporting cast is not helping out, Brunson could drop 65, 70 points. But if there's no help, all of that's going to be for what? For nothing.
yeah,
So did you hear, well, I'm sure you saw Randall's interview he did with Bleacher Report.
yeah. Chris Haynes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I put that in the Sims. How he thought he was gonna come back. But and the reason why he opted for the surgery, I think he was swimming, and he like tweaked it then, and that's when he just he knew he wasn't gonna be able to come back. So yeah, I heard about that.
Oh, I thought he did it in practice. From practicing and he caught contact. He was swimming.
Yeah, I think yeah. When I saw it, yeah, I guess because you try to strengthen the muscles with different exercises. You could do
Mhm.
the no contact. It's just all about trying to strength. He was like I guess like trying to self medicate, like self heal himself
Right.
on his own, and it just didn't go as planned, and that's why he just opted for the. That's why and when I last one I was like 50-50. As far as like how the fans felt. Oh, he should have had it. He knows his body best, and he thought he was going to be able to give it a go, and when he couldn't, and that's when because that's when he opted for the surgery. So you can't be mad at him. And I'd rather he do that, and that way he could come back 100% as opposed to being not mentally there for the team because he's so worried and on his shoulder and tweaking and not being that physical presence. So you
Right.
know he did what was best for him and the team overall.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that kind of answers why you felt like the news was under wrap because he was trying to self
Hmm
heal himself to try to come back. And I applaud him for that. But, now Randall's not going to be reevaluated back until September from that injury. So, I think it's gonna Randall has to just heal, rehab, and rest up because to come back from that and to be able to shoot is definitely going to be a challenge for sure. I think it's something he can come back from, yes, but I think it's definitely going to be a challenge for him. Um, One of the questions that was asked last night was, do we feel like Jalen Brunson is top five for MVP if the Knicks get further? I think it was if the Knicks got as far as the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, and even if they don't, and you know, I hate when not that I hate, but you can't diminish a person's accomplishments because they don't make it at a
Hmm.
certain level. So
Agreed.
all that stuff that they did, that don't count for nothing. So yes, I believe he is, even if they don't make it, because of what he was able to do with what he had, his limited, you know, um, gets role plays and contributions from the other guys. So yeah, and for people to diminish, all his other accomplishments, making All Star, second team, the Player of the Month and the week, and fifth and scoring in the league. So you can't diminish that. That's already cemented in the books.
Hmm.
So yes, he's worthy of it. Even if the Knicks, do fall short, why not?
Yeah, I agree. Um, to me, I think Brunson for sure should be in the MVP talks, considering what he's done without a number two guy, a 1B player, which would be Randall. So I think that speaks volumes alone. And I think one of the things that's even more impressive is a lot of times you'll see players and they're really skilled in their own right on one team. And then when they get traded or they go to another team, you're like, oh, you may know of that player from that other team, but because you're not a fan, you never really, you've only really seen that player's game in highlights. And then when they come to your team, you're like, wow, this guy is good, right? But I think with excuse me, with Brunson, I think his game elevated even more. And he's gotten even better than what he was when he was in Dallas. So the moves that we're seeing him display on the Knicks is top tier. It's even better than what he was doing in Dallas. And I think his game has grown and elevated. And I think that he has even more. Like you can tell this guy is still working on his game on in the off season during the summers. Um, and I think that's a plus for the Knicks because old Knicks would have either drafted someone or traded someone to come over who either was injury prone, was excited to initially come to the Knicks, but then really they were lazy. They were just trying to get the check. Or we just got someone who was a total bust and they just never worked out or wasn't a fit on this Knicks team. And also, the Knicks have needed a point guard for many years. We never really had a true point guard. I mean, would you count Raymond Felton? That's a name you haven't heard in a while. I mean, and I liked Felton, but no.
And he's also made his teammates better.
Yeah, he's brought
So
trust.
yeah, so you got to factor all of that in. What he like you say, he's elevated his game, and he's made his teammates better. So
Yeah,
yeah, I just gotta just throw that in.
no, for sure. He's definitely made his teammates better and he's made the team better. I think a lot more sports analysts, content creators, sports writers, sports media outlets are talking about the Knicks. And not as much because I think it's going to take for the Knicks to win a championship for people to start putting respect on their name. You know, Ajay said he went to BSPN's website to look for I guess, the highlights or article on the Knicks beating Milwaukee. He said I was scrolling. He said I had to scroll all the way down to a couple of pages, so it finally was there. He said it was at the bottom. And he said finally, and I said, but you know why? Because the narrative of that, it didn't matter that the Knicks beat them. The narrative was the Bucks lost again. They're in a losing streak. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's just like how the narrative was with the WNBA. It was Vegas and Aces. They didn't care about any other team or any other players. Here and there, they would talk about certain other players, but the narrative was those two teams. That's all that was talked about. Same thing with the women's college. It was Iowa and South Carolina. Caitlin Clark, like that was the narrative around Caitlin Clark and whoever else that they was gonna win face off against. And unfortunately, when the Knicks beat teams like a Milwaukee, they're not going to show highlights of what Jalen Brunson did or whoever else did something. The highlights are going to be a quick 15 seconds, if that. And the narrative of the game is going to be Giannis and Dame are on a losing streak. Doc Rivers, what's going on? Milwaukee's not. You know what I mean? Because they're not supposed to be losing four in a row and losing to the teams that they've been losing to. So it's unfortunate, but that's just how it is, with basketball. With when it comes to the Knicks, rather, I should say, when it comes to the Knicks, that's just how it is. Like the Knicks do not get the respect that they should be getting, and it's unfortunate. But I think it's because the Knicks haven't won a championship in many years, and I don't think people take the Knicks seriously. But I like the Knicks being the underdogs. I think the Knicks being the underdogs, they can do something that has been done, like what Miami did. The Knicks really can, even with this squad, but I think that they're just going to have to want it more. They're going to have to play smarter, play harder. They're going to have to be locked in, and that focus is going to have to be there. They're going to have to be disciplined. They can't come out with slow starts, but they can make a run. And I think that I would love to see the Knicks get definitely past the second round. And I mean, hell, if they can beat Boston, that would be a story to tell. It really would be. And they can beat them. Boston has a lot of weapons. They truly do. I'm not going to take that from them. Boston has a lot of angles they can go with, where they can go with their team. But I think that the Knicks being the underdog says a lot. And I think that the Knicks have proven many a times this season, especially as of late, that they can crawl back from a 20-25 point deficit. I don't want them to do that, but I think that they can in the postseason. But I think the Knicks prove that you can't sleep on them as a team, because Sacramento thought they had the Knicks in the bag. Milwaukee thought they had the Knicks in their bag, and the Knicks came back even when we played OKC, and the Knicks are able to crawl back into those games. But I just think that the Knicks can do, because I as much as I can't stand Miami, I thought what they did was really, you have to give credit where credit is due. For you to be in the eighth seed and you were just one by one knocking teams out.
Good
The Knicks
coach.
can do that, right? The Knicks can do the same thing. And again, and yes, it took great coaching to do that. And I think Tibbs is also going to be the other piece to this. He's going to have to make those adjustments. I don't want to hear, remember that game? I don't remember who the Knicks were playing. And Tibbs thought it was a bright freaking idea to pull. I think he put Quickly in and sat RJ, and RJ was hot during one of the games. In the press conference. He said, "Oh, he said I thought that was the better move." He said because I brought him in something for the defense, and then I sat him RJ down, and I was gonna bring him back in. Listen, don't do that. Don't do that. Just like tonight. If you see Mitch is a better defender against Drummond, leave Mitch in. Give him more of the minutes. I'm not
Yeah.
saying don't play Hartenstein, but I think the adjustments, Tibbs is the other factor, and the coaching and Not just the adjustment, but the coaching and what you're having these guys do while they're on the floor. I mean, sometimes you watch coaches and you go, well, I could do that. You remember when they had Tibbs mic'd up on what game was that? We was getting blown out. It wasn't Milwaukee, it was the other game. And Tibbs sat on the chair. He said, it's all right. You're not having the offense. He said, let's get the defense going. Get the defense going. And I said, that's all you're going to say? I mean, I didn't want it to be a long pep talk, but I was like, is that all he got? And I said, okay. But somehow it worked. The Knicks started getting more defensive minded, and the guys got out there, started locking in defensively, and it helped them chip away and get back in that game. But I just think that Tibbs is the other factor and the other piece to the Knicks pulling off wins in a series and making the right adjustments. You know, if Bogdanovich is hot, don't have him on that bench too long. You may got to give him more than 17 minutes, you know? So I don't know. I just think that that's going to be a big factor in the Knicks moving forward.
Well, we're gonna have a different outcome tonight. Believe that.
Yeah, I think it's important that the Knicks, go on and they had. I mean, the Knicks have to beat Chicago. Um, yeah. So we'll see what the Knicks say. Also, the Knicks got fined 25,000.
Oh yeah, for that. Yeah, for that Mitch. When they said he wasn't available, and then he. What was that? What game was that? Was that the? Yeah, the Toronto game. Yeah, tips are paid.
Right, put it on his tab. Exactly. So I guess we'll take it with okay, yeah. So we round out the last four games by the end of this week. The Knicks play tonight against Chicago. We play again on Thursday against Boston. Then we play Friday, so we have a back to back. So we have Thursday against Boston, and Friday we play Brooklyn. And then I don't know why whoever created the schedule got the Knicks playing the Bulls three times at the end of the season, the last couple of games. But we play Chicago again on Sunday.
Yeah.
Um, I have the Knicks at 3-1.
Yeah, you know what? I'm still rocking with my Knicks. I'm going 4-0. Hey, I'm an optimist, I tell you. I think the Knicks are gonna pull out this Boston win, man. I'm telling you. Bench players or not, but regardless. So
Hmm.
I'm still optimistic. I'm going 4-0.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I'm
got.
up.
You know what? I don't even think that. I think the Knicks can beat Boston. I think it's gonna be one of those last two games that's going to be a trap game, and it's going to be Brooklyn coming out with all this high energy, or either Chicago trying to get a revenge game and purposely make the Knicks lose and the Knicks slip up. But I have the Knicks 3-1. Last time we played Chicago, the Knicks lost 100-108. The Knicks can keep them below 100. Great. Um, but yeah, I got them 3-1. If the Knicks do win those three, then we'll be at 49 wins, 49-32. It's very hard right now to tell where the Knicks are going to land because, as we were talking about earlier, the East is so stacked between second place and seventh that it's like it's up for anybody's to grab. So tonight from the East, 76ers play Detroit. Indiana plays the Raptors. The Heat play Atlanta. Milwaukee and Boston play. And Orlando play Houston, which Houston got knocked out. So a lot of the only team I don't see playing is what you call it, Cleveland. But yeah.
Well, like I said, it's gonna be a different outcome tonight. Bulls had the advantage the last game. Um, the Knicks, they were on the off coming off a back to back. The Bulls
Hmm.
were well rested, so
Yeah,
I think so that did play to their advantage. You know, not to mention, Hart got ejected, which was bogus.
it
So
was.
yeah. So I definitely know he's gonna definitely that's gonna definitely be a revenge game for him. Um, and the Knicks, they gotta crash those boys. They got smashed on the glass the last time.
Yeah.
I mean, they were combined Mitch and Hart. They had like 12 rebounds compared to Drummond and what's that Vucevic? They had like 29. So it was a big disadvantage, not a slight, a huge disadvantage on the boys. So
Hmm.
again, they just have to just put a body in those bigs and crash the boys. Definitely looking for, OG and Mitch to, definitely have a big night tonight. They both, ironing out the kinks in that rust, but that's why I think that it is gonna be, a whole different game and just the outcome over on us. So I have it, a favorite in the Knicks advantage, though, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I do have the Knicks winning. I think it's a non-negotiable, like I said earlier. And we'll see. I do need the Knicks to pull off. It'd be nice if they can finish off with 50 wins, but nonetheless, I think it's going to be very interesting the remainder of this week to see where other teams. I know Cleveland plays tomorrow. So we'll see what happens tonight. A lot of the second through eighth place Eastern Conference teams are playing tonight.
Mhm.
So we'll see how that plays out. But I know the game tip off is really probably going to be 8:10. But yeah, salute to the chat tonight. Eddie Kofi, Wonder Woman, King Ribby RM, Just Nix, Ajay. Thank you all for joining us as usual. We'll be back again on Thursday. And I think the Knicks do play, yeah, they play Boston on Thursday, so that's great. We can run that down. And yeah, anything else for you before we get out of here?
No, I got the Knicks going 4-0. That's all. Let's go Knicks. Plain
Uh,
and simple.
you heard her. Salute to the replay gang. Those of you who are watching who are not in the chat, hit the like button, guys, before you get out of here. And those of you who are new, subscribe to the channel. Um, let's see how this next team's finishes out the remainder of this season. I'm going for a win tonight. And as Diva Lux always says, let's go Knicks. Until next time, everybody, we'll see you all